Earnestly podcast coming to you, I believe it's December 23rd, 2021. We are now officially 2 days away from Christmas. I'm happy about that. You know, I love the holidays, I do. But at some point, it's like, okay, because I tend to celebrate it a little more. Like, to me, I look at the holidays, I look at Christmas as really a one big 2-month party between, you know, Thanksgiving, leading up to Thanksgiving, and then, you know, obviously the holidays between Hanukkah, which I do celebrate because of my wife, you know, she's Jewish, and then you have also obviously Christmas, and then, you know, of course New Year's, the tail end of the entire thing, you know. But also my family too, especially, it's a big deal because between November and December, there's so many birthdays and so many things that we do celebrate between my brother, my nephew, my cousins, my dad, all have something to celebrate really in that span. So it ends up being a bigger deal than just, hey, it's Christmas, blah, blah, blah. It's also, hey, it's really the entire holidays, and we are going to enjoy everything we can because there's so much things to do and to acknowledge. So I do enjoy it. I do think it's fun. I do think it's a great thing every year, but I also do get burnt out after a while, especially when you have to deal with my kids and trying to figure out gifts and all that. And, you know, and that was one of the things this year too, where a battle I always lose. Like, it's not that I hate Christmas shopping necessarily. It's that Christmas shopping itself is not a problem. Maybe you do it, that's it. The issue with Christmas shopping is that my wife and I, we almost always fight over the budget. And every year I lose. This year I actually won. I actually got her to shave out $100 off our budget because I felt that was needed. Everything's higher in price this year, so we had to make some concessions. We had some things go on recently around us that impacted how we spent our money this year. So I actually won that battle this year. By the way, I'm recording this outside. I'm actually at the playground. And I typically do this podcast on location at the playground. You know, my kids are out here playing. I know they're playing hide and go seek right now, so I got a couple minutes myself to talk. And while I'm doing this, I can go away for a couple minutes and just talk to you guys here for about 20 minutes, whatever. But, you know, yeah, but I was able to get her to compromise with me into lowering our budget for the holidays. I mean, we actually did that. So, you know, that's been one of the things that, you know, the holidays, like I said, it gets to the point where, you know, at the same time, it gets to the point where by the time we get to the end of December, I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this, but I'm ready to get back to normal again, you know. And then, of course, you have, like, in April, we have, like, the trifecta of my family, as you guys know. We've followed this podcast for years. You know that in the same week, we celebrate both our kids' birthdays, who were only 4 days apart. Though 4 years in age difference, it's 4 days apart in actual dates. And then around that time is also my wedding anniversary, which we do celebrate all the time. So it's one of those things where you get these, like, moments in the year where everything is coming down at one time. You know, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's just what it is. So anyway, but you know, looking forward to Christmas. We'll figure out. We're still trying to iron out plans because we got a lot of options in the air about how we're going to celebrate, where we're going to celebrate. We do our usual, as I said, we do our usual stuff at home with, you know, at home with the kids. I make breakfast in the morning. They open their gifts. Typically, my mother-in-law comes over with my brother-in-law, and we have that. I'm not sure it's going to go down this year. We'll see. And then we go, depending on my mom calls to do something, or if my sister or my dad calls and asks what's going on. This year we got a couple of options this year too, which I haven't finalized yet. We'll figure out how that goes. But yeah, it should be a fun time. I'm looking forward. Like I said, I love this time of year. it's kind of bittersweet in some ways too, but also great in some ways as well. But I'm looking forward to a lot of the things too, especially in 2022. Making some nice positive changes in this podcast, especially. As you know, we're doing more content now a week. I launched recently the Football's Awesome podcast in September, which has been a success. I've really enjoyed doing that. Every week, in 3 different segments, 4 different segments, and I'm really blessed to have people in my life that are committed to come on the show, who want to come on the show and to banter with me and talk about things I'm talking about. So football has always been a big deal on this podcast, especially because, football is, in this country, it is the creme de la creme. It is the most important sport. Whether or not you enjoy it or not, the NFL especially is still the king of all sports. So we prioritize that a lot on this show. Even though my favorite sport is basketball, basketball is so spread out to the point where you don't start really getting engaged into basketball until probably after Christmas time. Now I'm the fan that likes to watch from opening night all the way through the finals, and even in free agency, I'm engaged, obviously. But content-wise, I find it with my schedule being tight as it is sometimes, I find it harder to put out numerous basketball content. So I don't normally, and I've noticed this behavior with me when I record. I don't put out a lot of basketball-related content really in October. I'll dabble a little bit here and there, but I don't really go into the, brick and mortar or inside baseball with it until really after the holidays. And then once January comes around, I am full blast ahead. So the same concept I'm doing football. Football's awesome. We do a weekly podcast. I'm also looking to do a similar thing with a basketball show. And we're going to have, of course, our usuals, Chris Manick and Zach Degenerate. They've all committed to jumping on. We're going to do a weekly thing, most likely. We're going to start that probably, I would likely say, after the Super Bowl, because the times I can record that is right now being used for football. The Football's Awesome podcast. So once that's freed up after the Super Bowl, I can really dive into the basketball stuff. Because to be honest, once you get to February, March, April, when you get down that last stretch before going to the playoffs, and then of course the playoffs itself is a life on its own, then it gets even more apropos to do the show. So you have that looking forward to. And then I am also looking into doing a wrestling show within this feed as well too. Not sure if it'll be weekly. It could be weekly, but maybe more so bi-weekly or even monthly sometimes, depends. Because wrestling never really ends. You can always jump in when you want. I think I have a name for it, most likely, for the show. I haven't finalized yet, but that's the next thing I also want to do as well, is a wrestling podcast on this feed as well, too. Now, people are going to ask me, well, don't you really have a show, take to wrestling? Yeah, I do. But that's a show that's shared by myself, my friend Mike, my friend Joe. That's our show, and whatever we do as a collective. This is going to be something a little separate on the outside that allows me to do things that I probably can't do on that show. It allows me to bring other guests, especially outside the bubble of Take 3 Wrestling. It's the bubble. It's under my name and under my production name, because I obviously produce the content and publish it. But in terms of how we do the show, I'm 1/3 of the show, and I want to respect that. But I also want to be able to have an avenue where I can talk about wrestling in a ways I couldn't do on that show, that I can on this podcast. So look out for that podcast, hopefully in January. It's all going to come out mostly in January, February. Doing that. I might also do something similar with politics as well, too. Not as often, obviously, but we'll see. Of course, the normal stuff we do here with the Unfiltered podcast, which is also the topic-centric stuff I do, that at one point was on feed, is now on this feed now too. And then you have, of course, the regular podcast I do, also my solo podcast, like this one I do on here as well, So there's a lot of positive things going on with the podcast I'm looking forward to doing in 2022 and beyond. I'm really enjoying, I kind of feel like I had a rebirth of the show, really, in the last couple months, especially in a couple weeks. And I want to continue to push as much as I can. Like I said, it's always, I say that, and then like say 3 months from now, I get burnt out. If I get burnt out, I'll slow down. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do a show every day. There is the avenue to do that, a show every day, whether put out content every day. I do guest spots also on shows, which I'll probably start putting more of the episodes on this feed as well too. I got some clearance from some of the places. Like I now appear weekly on the Huddle Up podcast with our good friend Big James Neese, who's a regular on this show as well too. And he gave me a clearance to put, go ahead and put the show on this feed as well too, which I also promote his work on here as well. And I've been on the show all year long. It was gonna be a one-off thing for a little while, or once in a while I'll come on. But I've been on the show every week pretty much most of the season, outside a couple of times I couldn't make it because of other obligations. And I really enjoyed doing that show too as well. So I want to start putting that on the feed as well too. So this feed is going to be a lot more active now as we move forward in 2022. Between the little side things I do and, of course, guest spots I do and other projects. And especially, too, these things also you can find also on its own playlist on my YouTube page, Earnestly Media YouTube page. You can check that out as well, too. So it's a lot going on. I'm looking forward to 2022 and continue to make, good, solid content for you guys to enjoy, So that's really, that's it, really, in terms of that. By the way, I was at work the other day, and you notice the title of today's episode is called Deck the Halls of Matzoballs. So I was, I obviously deal cards for a living, and I was dealing a game, and one of the players, cause I told him that my wife is Jewish, and obviously I'm a Christian, and she's Jewish, although she's Reformed, and he made a joke about saying deck the halls of matzoballs. Obviously, matzoballs is a famous Jewish soup, delicacy, you want to call it. And I cracked the hell up, and I told him I'm going to use that for probably for the episode, probably this week for the show, and go figure I'm doing it for this episode. Deck the halls of matzoballs. That's very creative. I like that. That was kind of cool, actually, him telling me that and whatnot. Did you guys hear this rumors about Steph Curry and Ayesha Curry? Supposedly, now this hasn't really blown up much. We heard about it a couple days ago, and it kind of just tailed off after a while because there's been no confirmation, no more, and not really any mainstream media coverage on this too. Maybe this might be on purpose or just because I know the Currys have a very pristine, clean image, family image, but the rumor is that Steph Curry and Ayesha Curry have an open marriage. Now, Steph Curry and Ayesha Curry have been, as a unit, has been in the limelight for about say 7-8 years now. At this point, Ayesha Curry is, obviously it's through Steph, but she has her own lane now too. She does a cooking show. I don't know if she still has it now, but I know at one point she had a cooking show in the Bay Area. She's been very she's been very outspoken about her dealing with mental health and not feeling accepted, and that sometimes feels jealous about Steph Curry and the attention he gets, and she's gonna have attention and all that. And we've had actually on this podcast too, with some conversations I've had with G Stelio and Rosalind Ross on our pods we've done in the past, subjects about that and about how her reaction to that. And so hearing this news, and I can't even say it's news, I'm not even sure it's confirmed or not, but there's been rumors about that now in some dark corners of the web about them having open marriage. Like, part of me doesn't even want to talk about this, though, but it is a fascinating thing, because what if it's actually true? It kind of sort of lends another angle to whether or not is this a very authentic marriage. I don't judge how people want to operate with their marriages or how they want to operate as people. That's for them to decide. I wouldn't have thought an open marriage would have been something that would have been on the table, really, to be honest with you. But look, we are progressing as a society faster than I can imagine. I mean, look, I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing, but it's not something I can say I would actually do either. I'm very old school. I'm pretty conservative when it comes to a lot of how I operate. I'm progressive in certain facets of my life, but I'm also conservative, traditional in other ways of my life. But to me, it would just be very shocking if that was true, because given the image that these two, Ayesha and Steph, have put out for years. that they would actually have open marriage. Now, I've joked for years with my wife in the past, what if, that was actually a thing where open marriages were actually allowed and you can do that if the marital divorce rate would actually go down. Of course, she said horseshit because, she believes in tradition as well, too. I do as well. So, I'm not going to judge. And like I said, we don't even know if this stuff is true or not either. So, I'm not going to sit there and just openly blast some, wacky opinion. But I am just curious, though, if this is something, given also the things Ayesha Curry has said in the past publicly about how she feels about certain things, if this is actually true. It would just be a bit of a shock. But then again, sometimes you peel back the curtain a little bit too with some of these people. Some of these things aren't as authentic as it seems. A lot of these celebrities too, also, they don't come out they're not as authentic as it seems. People are shocked. You saw Megan Good, who's been married, for this. I don't really follow her life or whatever, but Megan Good is really very very popular actress for years, and she's married to a preacher and all that, and all of a sudden they're getting divorced now after 8 years of marriage. And it's just this idea that sometimes people who are come off as very holier than thou, or these Christ-centered people, even they have these struggles too. And listen, I'm not here to judge, but at the same time, it goes to show you that none of us are perfect. We all fall short. And it's just, we are seeing a lot of. I don't know if it's COVID. The era of COVID now has come to really become the term. People come to terms with who they are as people, who they are as society. But like I said, it would be a slight shock that if the Steph Curry, Ayesha Curry news or rumors are actually true. Given the fact that I thought they're a tight couple, but maybe if it's true, maybe this is the reason why their marriage actually works. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I don't want to judge more than that. Something that's actually maybe this is rumored. So, Jay-Z, it put some more water on the fire today, or yesterday rather. He was quoted as saying something about Beyonce, and he said something to the quote of that. Basically, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he started up saying that this is going to get me probably mad at her, be mad at him for the next couple months. But in talking about her career and her impact, and he was comparing to Michael Jackson, especially, which is obviously the Beyonce MJ argument has been something that's been had on social media for a long time, especially the last couple of years. In saying that, basically that Michael did not have a Coachella. So that is a reason why Beyonce might be the greatest of all time, greatest entertainer of all time. We've had this conversation on this podcast already about my feelings on the Beyonce argument, the MJ argument. Everybody knows I'm a diehard Michael Jackson fan. Greatest entertainer of all time, the whole nine. I am not the biggest Beyonce fan on the planet. I appreciate her. I think she's fantastic. In fact, I'll go as far as saying this. I think Beyonce is the best living entertainer in the world. In any music genre, I think she is the best. She was on great shows. I've seen her live before. I do think also, too, because forget the fact that we're going to talk about Michael and Beyonce. That's not... First off, at the end of the day, this is all subjective anyway. Okay? This is all subjective. I can sit here and say that Justin Bieber or Milli Vanilli are the greatest artists of all time. And while it may not be actually true, it's my taste, it's what I believe in. It's subjective. Okay? It may sound ridiculous, but it's subjective. And this is the kind of the problem we have now with stan culture, that we get so bogged down into our bubbles. This goes with politics too. This goes with politics and sports, and this is like the modern day MJ, Michael Jordan, LeBron James debate. Although I'll say sports, it's a little bit easier to kind of have a concise argument because of there's statistics involved. But anyway, I think that people need to allow this topic to breathe a little more. Okay? look, I think obviously Michael Jackson is the greater entertainer, the more impactful artist. Okay, now I think that's actually closer to fact than opinion, but that's where I stand on the argument. At the end of the day, we need to allow this shit to breathe. This stuff is subjective at the end of the day. We need to allow this to breathe. And I think people get into their feelings about this. I don't even think what Jay-Z said was actually a diss. First off, I think the Shade Room had put up a thing on their social media saying that, MJ fans, are coming at Jay-Z for dissing Michael Jackson. Which I don't even think what he said was actually a diss. Because Beyonce kind of is an evolution of Michael Jackson. Beyonce is very much influenced heavily by Michael Jackson. No one denies that. And I just think that sometimes we need to allow this stuff to breathe. I think we get too bogged down. I'm not just saying Beyonce fans, because look, the Bayhive and Beyonce fans are fucking insane. They're nuts. They're fucking nuts, bro. Okay, they're nuts. Okay? But Michael fans also aren't that far off the beaten path either themselves. And I get the fact that a lot of MJ fans are very defensive about him because of the way he was treated in his life and even in death. So there's this innate ability or innate want to defend everything that seems to get thrown his way. But that doesn't mean that we don't have, intelligent discussions about these things, okay? I don't think what Jay-Z said was a big deal. It's being made a bigger deal than it really is. And I think we need to let these things breathe sometimes, okay? Beyonce's fantastic, what she does, and we respect that and all that. Michael, obviously, is one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Certainly the greatest entertainer of all time. One of the most impactful stars in entertainment, period. But let this shit breathe, dude. It's not a big deal, okay? At the end of the day, we like who we like, and that's it. I trolled somebody today on Twitter, saying, guess what? Metallica over Beyonce. Case dismissed. Done. In discussion. This shit is subjective, bro. It's subjective at the end of the day. We need to let this shit breathe. Like, seriously. Not a big deal, okay? Not a big deal. So, anyway, that'll do for this podcast. December 23rd, 2021. Birthday shout out to my cousin Errol, who turned, I think he was 37 yesterday. I think 37, yeah. God, we're all getting old. Jeez. Anyway, I'm on Twitter, EJ7, looking for the next episode of this podcast. Probably not doing one tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Because it's Christmas Eve, and I'm working tomorrow actually. But then after that, it's all about my family. So so if I'm not doing a podcast, so shout out to that's the thing I forgot to do. Last topic here before I get the show done for good. My brother, who I just mentioned earlier, Eric, he got engaged this week. I made a big deal about it because, and I want to put him on blast here. On blast publicly, but anybody knows my brother and knows our family, he's a bit of a commitment phobe. And for a reason, he just hasn't been one that has really been yet to settle down. He turns 35 tomorrow. Okay, so we've always had discussions about him having a family and getting married, and he's always been, maybe we'll see what happens. And I'm different. I'm the guy that loves. Look, I can survive without having a wife necessarily. I'm not saying I don't want to be married, but I also love being married. I also love having a family. I love having a dynamic like this, a nucleus like this to build around. I love it. It's something that when I look back when I'm older, I'm proud of. But he's been a bit of a commitment phobe. But I kind of already knew he was going to propose to her because his fiance, his girlfriend, Angie, because I already found out months ago that he was looking for a ring and all that. Didn't say a word, of course. But the fact that he did it, though, was a big deal to me. I'm so proud of him, honestly. I feel like my dad cried. He was in Bahamas when this happened, too, especially. So when I found the news that he did it that day, I had to call him immediately and just react and all that. It was great. So shout out to my brother Eric for his engagement, him and his wonderful fiance Angie. And also happy birthday to my brother tomorrow, who turns 25 tomorrow, as well as my nephew, who turns 16 tomorrow as well. So that will do for the podcast now. So if I don't do another one tomorrow, I wish you guys a very Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week as we wind down 2021. And until then, we'll talk soon. I love you guys. Take care and see ya.